All right. All right. Let's see. Something is not going right. Let me get my mic on real quick. Oh, yeah. You can still hear me even without my mic. That's all. All right. So the mic is in. The mic is in. I see everything going. Hmm. All right. One more time. Let me just make sure that I have everything working properly here. Microphone on. All right. Hey everyone, it is Twana's Twitch here with you for a special stream. I know it's not very normal to see me here on a Tuesday afternoon, evening, but I am here. I am here with you guys today. So here, we're doing a special. Oh, well, look at that. That's not going to work because you're not going to be able to see me. All right. We're doing a special stream today to bring awareness to breast cancer and to raise funds. So, again, thank you for joining me today for this very special stream. And we're going to go ahead and bring on, hold on, I see Dr. Sergi here, Dr. Turin. I don't know why I always call you the wrong name, Dr. Turin. Let him know that I see him here. Spell the name right. All right. So let's get started by just introducing the man who started all of this, right? DJ D Man is in the house. Look at
What's
you looking
good?
all dapper.
Listen, I'm on Tawana's Twitch, channel right now, and we got a couple of doctors here. I'm not gonna come all, I'm coming correct, okay?
You are
Plus,
definitely coming correct. Look at that. Thank you
plus,
so much.
plus
Um,
also too, I don't wear this is my only bow tie I have, and my man, shout out to my man DJ Mark, who has a business called The Whatnot. And it literally took me like an hour to tie this tie. So so I'm new to the bow tie game, but I'm loving it. I'm loving it.
but
So I had to show it off.
now you got it. You got it down now. Once you would think you would have had it down though after your wedding. I mean, I feel like that's when most people.
That was a clip on though, so this is the real deal right here.
That's the real deal. All
Yes.
right, let me take that off of here and just talk to you for a minute.
Mhm.
I don't know. I'm going to be playing around with how everything looks because if you don't mind, I'm also streaming this to YouTube. So there's
Oh, okay,
always a
cool.
difference between how it looks on Twitch and how it looks on YouTube. But
Very
how are
cool.
you doing? So y'all, this is the man who started this whole movement, Beats for a Cure. So, without going any further, let me just have you give us the background on that and how you started doing this wonderful event.
Wow. So let's back it up before the official Beats for a Cure. First off, good evening, everyone. How's everyone doing? Hope everyone is well. Big up chat. Hello Twitch and hello YouTube. But it started back actually in 2001. It was actually April 27th. That's when it really officially started because that was the date of my oldest son being born. And that was also the day that my mom got her results back from her cancer test. Or cancer screen. I had no idea she went. I know that I did there were any issues, and I'm bawling because I just had my first kid. I'm like, oh, it's awesome. And then probably a few hours later, she came in and said, yeah, I just got a test back and results back, and I have breast cancer. And I'm like, oh my gosh, my mom's gonna die. And I'm like bawling, tears of joy and tears of sadness within hours of each other. But she says, no, it's definitely not. We caught it relatively early. It could have been probably a little bit sooner, but it's not way too far, and we can work with this. So ever since then, I started doing the different things. Either I was DJing at an event, or I would, donate my time to a charity or whatever it was for breast cancer in October. And so it really started back in 2001. Fast forward to 2020 when now we're in the pandemic. So I'm thinking, okay, what am I gonna do for this year as far as for breast cancer? And at this point, my mom had passed away in 2010. So I've been doing everything since then after she had passed. But I was like, what can I do? I said, well, maybe I might, DJ or something. I don't know. But then one of my friends over in the UK, DJ Easy P, did a 24-hour stream for cancer as
I just
well.
have to just really, 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 really quick because we're
Sure.
getting our raid in from
Oh, okay. Cool, cool, cool.
DJ. Yeah, from DJ Really Real. So I want to make sure that I
Oh yeah. Let's get
acknowledge
this.
the everyone who's raiding in now. Thank you so much. Kelly Vision was the first name that popped up. C Love, Music Forever, Miss KB.
The whole
I don't
fam.
even know how to read all of these names. D man, DJ
And-
Classics is on. Welcome in everyone.
yeah.
All right. So I don't like to interrupt when
No, no,
my
that's good. No,
people
no, no, no.
are
We
going
acknowledge the
in.
raids here. No, we acknowledge the raids
Absolutely.
here.
All right.
Absolutely.
So go ahead, finish your story, young
So
man.
Raiders, welcome in, welcome in. How you guys doing? Of course, DJ D Man here. So yeah, so I saw him do that. And I'm like, well, that'd be pretty good to do, but I can't be online for 24 hours straight. I just can't do that. I have work, I have family and stuff like that. So I said, oh, I'll DJ for a few hours, and I brought it up to just in passing, just kind of talking about I'm going to do this in October to Selector 720, and he was like, oh, I'll be down to rock with you, and I was like, oh, really? He's like, yeah, I'll do a couple hours. I'm like, all right. So then, all right, instead of me doing 4 to 6 hours, you do two, I do two, and whatever we raise. And then I brought up to this other DJ, DJ Ghostwriter TV, and he says, absolutely, put me on, put me in that lineup. I'm like, okay, it's not really a lineup, but okay, I guess it's going to slowly turn into that. And then next, it just snowballed into, I got Relly Rel on, who just rated us in. He's my hometown fam. Hey, Classics. And it just, it just snowballed from there. And it turned into from me just doing like a 4-hour stream into a full weekend. It was a 3-day event at that point in time. And it turned out really well. The support from the DJs that were part of it, as well as the people who donated. And then from there, I said, next year I'm gonna do a whole week. That turned out really well last year, and I'm like, let's keep it going. So yeah, it just really started off, once again, just in dedication to my mom. But as far as here on Twitch, it was just literally just seeing the DJ community, how great they are, and the community who watches us. And I'm like, all right, I can do something like this here on Twitch, which turned out really well. So.
That's so awesome. And
Yeah.
is this the first year where you've had streamers come in along with DJs?
No, actually, last year was the first year because I had the house show. He kicked things off last year, and then also I had Mish because she does the cooking.
Yes.
So she had a cooking stream on hers, and that was it. And I said, you know what? This year there are so many dope, non DJs that are on here that have shows like yourself. Mish with the cooking, Hal just with the foolish men. You know how that is. And I was like, let me get some of these other people involved. So we got, Kelly Vision. I see her in the chat. What's good, Queen? Last year her and Rel were together, and I'm like, we were like, you know what, you guys can be this part. You have your own show. So she wanted to be, not saying she wanted to be away from Rel, but she's like, I can stand on my own. I'm like, I know you can stand on your own. You can do this. So she's on here. She's going to be doing, once again, just, what she does as far as with music and just education, as far as, the music history and stuff like that. And then I was part of a raid with musicians. I don't know. I stumbled onto that raid. I don't know how. I felt like probably like the least experienced person in that stream because they were like legit musicians on that stream, on that raid train. And so I got a guy who plays the saxophone and the guitar keyboard, and he's really, really dope. So I got him involved. So this year I have a lot more variety of streamers and not just strictly DJs. I love that, and I'm going to keep expanding that as we go throughout the years.
Yes, absolutely. Kelly Vision has such a unique approach to
Yes.
the way that she brings music and education together. So I really cannot wait to watch her. And I saw that you have spiritual thought leader on
Yes.
the lineup.
Oh my gosh.
She is my personal pastor. So,
Oh yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. She'll get us fired up in the morning. So
Absolutely.
I'm wait for that one.
All right. Well, let me bring in. So we're talking about getting people getting the knowledge out there about breast cancer awareness. And so let me just bring in my team. That's one thing that my journey this year turned totally right? Is it left? I can't remember which way it is, right? When you just go totally off the rails. But
Yeah.
I was diagnosed with breast cancer this year. Like
Yeah.
breast
Wow.
cancer, and I really couldn't
Wow.
believe it, which
Yeah.
is how I became, a part of this wonderful just like nonstop raid train for a whole week. And so let me just bring
Yeah.
them on real quick. Let me bring them on. First, let me bring on Dr. Sergey Turin, he is my lifeline. Him and his team are doing everything for me right now. He is my plastic surgeon. So let me bring in Dr. Turin. Hi, Dr. Turin. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, absolutely. Can you guys hear me?
Can hear
Yes, sir.
you. Can hear you.
Okay,
Thank
good.
you
That's
so
always a
much.
success.
Yes. All right. So let me bring in, I see Dr. Davis. I see him now. Let me see if I can bring him in. Dr. Davis,
How
that
are
is
you?
my breast
Yeah.
cancer surgeon. He was my first contact after I found out that I actually had breast cancer. So Dr. Turn is my breast cancer surgeon, which is different than my plastic surgeon, who is Dr. Turin. And I got one more. Let me bring in Dr. Singavi real quick. Hi, Dr. Singavi.
Hi, how are you guys?
Awesome.
Hello.
Dr. Singavi is my oncologist. And let me tell you, you really can't see my face on here anyway. Y'all are the ones that I wanted to talk to. So I'm over here behind the logo. But I just want to say thank you so much for just being willing and able to come on at such short notice and talk with us about breast cancer. How are y'all doing this week? Let's start with Dr. Turin. How are you doing this week?
We're winning. We're doing great.
I tell you, thinking about plastic surgery in my mind is, people who have a lot of influence, who want to get some Botox here and there. I never thought that I would have such a intense relationship with a plastic surgeon, but you definitely stood out to me when I was doing my, research from Dr. Davis. So I appreciate
Thank
how
you.
y'all treat me so well there at Tesla Plastic Surgery.
I appreciate that. Thanks.
All right. And then Dr. Davis, like I said, was my very first contact in this whole journey of figuring out what to do about this lump that I had in my breast. And he was really that first voice of reason that made me understand that this wasn't the end of the world for me. So, Dr. Davis, thank you for joining. How was your
Yeah,
week?
it's been going well. Pretty busy, but thanks for having me on. I definitely appreciate it and kind of love the content that you have out there.
Awesome. And then the oncologist, who is the person who wants to see me really kick cancer's ass, not just breast cancer, but cancer in general. The journey that you and I are going to take is going to be longer than any of whether I'm with that, Dr. Davis or Dr. Turn. So how are you? How was your week?
I'm doing well. I'm having a great week. I'm excited to be here and thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. So I just want to dive into this kind of in the way that I was exposed to breast cancer and what this journey looks like. So, Dr. Davis, you were my first contact and you were the breast cancer surgeon. What is your role once a woman finds out that she has breast cancer? What does a doctor like you then do?
So most of the time, I am kind of the initial contact overall. What happens is they usually go in and have a screening mammogram or a diagnostic mammogram where they find a lump. They're referred to me, and if they don't have a biopsy already, then I usually do the biopsy in office. And I'm the first one who kind of talks to them about the breast cancer in general. Go over different receptors and kind of the next steps. I know Dr. Singley likes to say he's the quarterback, but sometimes I like to play quarterback as well. Um, but so they come to me. We kind of go over kind of the different options. So if it's very aggressive, then we kind of briefly talk about chemotherapy for a little bit. But I kind of transition it over to Dr. Singaby. But if it's non-aggressive, then we kind of go into the different options of surgery. And depending on how large it is and kind of the size of the breast or kind of the different options that the patients want, so you can kind of go with lumpectomy, which kind of means removing a portion of the breast, versus mastectomy, which means removing the entire breast. And that's the kind of differentiation factor at that point. Also do genetic testing here as well. So what a lot of people think is that once you get breast cancer, most of the time that it's related to a genetic component. But what we really know is that only about 10 to 15% of people who actually have breast cancer actually have a genetic component. Um, so I do genetic testing here. We kind of go over those results and things like that. And depending on what you want or what options you're seeking, I refer you to Dr. Turin or one of the plastic surgeons, and Dr. Singavi, the medical oncologist. And that way we can kind of have a team-based approach. We also have radiation oncologists for patients who need radiation. But overall, we kind of I'm kind of facilitate that team-based approach if they come to me first. And I usually send them to the plastic surgeon, the medical oncologist, radiation oncologist, and then kind of come back for like that final plan before we kind of do the surgery.
Right, which is really how I met you. My breast cancer was detected by my nurse practitioner, Stephanie Piercy, who I just have to keep saying over and over again how amazing she is. And it was just so great that I already had the relationship with her. I kind of moved away from a doctor being my primary care provider a while ago, and love the fact that Stephanie knows my body more than I do. She knew my body better than I did because she was able to find that lump. And it was, as you know, Dr. Davis, we caught it pretty early, and I had all of the options, out there ready for me, lumpectomy. But what I did appreciate is that you were able to give me the information and I can make that decision on my own.
Right. I think the main thing is kind of going to get screening. We dedicate. One thing I kind of talk to patients about is that we know a lot about breast cancer. We dedicate a whole month to breast cancer, and I think going out, getting checked, check for a lump, doing self breast exams, going to get screenings are kind of the main thing that I kind of enforce when I talk to patients. I think that's the first step, actually checking yourself, and then going to get a mammogram. A lot of women say, especially kind of younger women who have more dense breasts, like, it's just lumpy bumpy, but what I tell them is kind of, know what your normal lumpy bumpy is. And that way, if something changes, then you actually kind of know what's going on with your body.
And that really is the key. Know what your normal lumpy bumpy is. I just spoke with someone who they were told that they have dense breasts, and she had absolutely no idea what that meant. And she's in her 40s. She did not know what it meant to have dense breasts and what that means for your mammogram or for when you're checking yourself out. So definitely know your lumpy bumpies best, and have a friend. Like when my mother was alive, she was my buddy, and we would, on the 12th of every month, and it was the 12th because we got the idea from Channel 12 News at the time when I was living in Minnesota. So the 12th was our day, was our month of every month, the day of every month to do our self breast exam. So find a buddy and keep them accountable as well. But do know your lumpy bumpies and make sure that you're going to your doctor. I feel like, especially as Black women, the doctor is not always our first option, but it should be. Right, Dr. Davis?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right, now let's move on. My second person that I got to meet with was you, Dr. Singavi. After I met with Dr. Davis, the oncologist was the next person that I went to go see. Explain to us why that is the kind of logical step in this process.
So I think Dr. Davis pointed out, breast cancer or any cancer in general is it's a team-based approach. You want, when we met, we talked about, we're going to talk about you behind your back all the time, because we want to make sure all of us agree on the plan that we're doing for you. People think about breast cancer and they think it's just this one basket where, everybody gets treated the same. It doesn't. There's a lot of nuance to how we treat breast cancer. Sometimes we need to talk about chemotherapy first. Sometimes we need to talk about, immunotherapy attached to that. Each breast cancer, depending on the receptors, depending on the grade, depending on the stage, our approach is different. And each of us has a role to play in doing our best to maximize our chance of cure for our patients. And laying that all out there and getting everybody to buy in from the beginning as your team, saying, hey, I met so-and-so today. Here's what we talked about. I know you guys talked about this. There's this one thing we talked about. I just want to make sure we did that. What do you think about this? And having everybody on the same page is really important. From the medical oncology standpoint, as you pointed out, we're going to be friends for a very long time. And I want to develop that relationship from the beginning of the journey. Dr. Davis was joking about the quarterback part. I know we take turns being quarterback, but once the surgical stuff is done, I am the quarterback and I'm your go-to person for a very long time. Unfortunately, when we talk about survivorship, every twinge you get, every ache that you get, that first thought comes in, oh God, is it the cancer coming back? And we have to have a relationship where we're incredibly honest about it. And you can reach out to me whenever you need to say, I'm freaking out. My wrist really hurts. Is it cancer? And I can talk you off that ledge because it's not.
That is so funny that you say that because my wrist is hurting and I can't figure out why, but it's not cancer.
It's your computer and it's your mouse, but sure.
No, don't say that. So, Dr. Singhvi, my initial meeting with you was really very general. I don't even remember if we had the biopsy results back yet after we met the first time. But once you do get that biopsy back, what's next?
So when we get the biopsy back, first we identify, is it cancer? There are stage 0 breast cancer, which is something called DCIS or LCIS. The way I describe that to most patients is, cancer is made up of little cells. Those cells could be trapped inside of a house. And when they're trapped inside of a house, they can't access the streets. They can't access anywhere else. So if they don't have access to the streets, they can't travel anywhere. That's your stage 0. Then we look at stage 1, 2, and 3, or 4, depending on where we find the cancer. We look at all of that first. So if it's in the lymph nodes, it could be sometimes a stage 2 or stage 3. Then we talk about, okay, from the biopsy, we're looking at receptors. What's driving the breast cancer? There's 3 particular ones. We talk about estrogen, progesterone, and something called HER2.
And that was the really serious one, the HER2. Not that they're not all serious.
HER2 allows it makes it a little bit more aggressive. Or if all of them are negative, it's something called triple negative, and it behaves more aggressively as well. And then we look at our grade, meaning how aggressive does it look under the microscope. But we look at all of those things to come up with, okay, what should be our treatment plan based on this? Is it aggressive enough that we know we need to talk about chemotherapy or targeted therapy for HER2? And if that's the case, should we start with chemotherapy first? If not, then we say, okay, let's talk about surgery and what are the surgical options, and defer back to Dr. Davis and Dr. Turin.
That's amazing. I know that there are going to be some times, in this first hour that we're really diving into some serious medical terminology and things like that. But the great thing that I love about you guys is that you dumb it down for me. So I appreciate you making it so that everyone can understand what you're saying. So thank you for being able to break that down, Dr. Singhvi, so that we can get a good idea. I feel like the more that we are comfortable talking about these things, the more comfortable we're going to be with dealing with them in our own lives. And that's half the battle. Knowing is half the battle. So being able to work with your team, understand that they just want the best for you, and to don't feel like there are any questions that you can't ask. Like Dr. Turin, I know between you and Dr. Davis, talking about sparing my nipples was that was a conversation that I never in a million years would think that I would need to have. But the way the two of you work together to actually do it was amazing. So Dr. Turin, let's bring you in here now. You are that person who, as a woman, we are our hair and our breasts, right? So you're that person that helps us stay comfortable in our own skin. So talk a little bit about what happens when you come in from the very first surgery.
Sure. That's a great question. And I mean, it's it's funny, you kind of mentioned before, you never really imagined yourself probably in a plastic surgeon's office in this way. But in reality, doing this type of surgery versus a facelift or, a boob job, as they call it, or any of those things, it's all the same thing, because at the end of the day, all we're trying to do is we're trying to make you feel good about the body that you're in, whatever that takes. And so this is a situation where your body is going to have to go through a change, whether it be, taking off a piece of breast or a whole breast or both of them or whatever else needs to happen. And once that's done, it's probably going to be in a place where you may not be super happy with it. And so my job is to put things back together, make you feel good. And regardless of, what Dr. Davis wants to do and what Dr. Singavi wants to do with the chemo, or what anybody wants to do with the radiation, at the end of the day, I have to adapt and improvise and do whatever needs to be done to make you look good again, make you happy with yourself, whether it means an implant, whether it means moving some of your own tissue around, or any of those things. And so I think you probably recall from our first meeting where I said, at the end of the day, Dr. Davis is the man. He's got the plan for, doing the right surgery. There you go. He's got the plan for doing the right surgery to take care of the disease, get the badness out. Let him do his thing with no restrictions. I will fix whatever he leaves me with, whether it means leaving the nipple, that's always great. That makes me, sets me up for success even more. And if it means taking the nipple, then that's fine too. I can build you a new one. Not a huge deal. But it truly is really nice where, at the end of the day, for most patients, probably, I can't see how many people are watching this or if any of them are going through the same journey. But at the end of the day, if you say, okay, for me, this was, for all of us, it was, all four doctors here, it's 4 years in med school, right? So Dr. Davis probably in residency and fellowship about the same as myself, 6, 7, 8 years is around how long this takes. Dr. Singavi also on that order. So it's kind of crazy to ever expect a patient that's going to try to get an understanding of this concepts, within the span of a couple of weeks of research online and, 3 1-hour appointments, that it took us, years and thousands of hours to get an idea. So at the end of the day, you just have to find a team that you trust and that you like, and then they will do all the right things for you. Because sometimes, I've noticed, with the internet and everything, a lot of patients want to do their research, and that's always really, really good. But I think that having the right team on board is just so much more important, because that's what's going to actually get you there.
I agree. I have had lots of angels helping me throughout this process. And, keeping in mind that mine went pretty fast. Dr. Davis, you had me in the process really, really quickly, and was able to even, for the fortunate, untimely infection that I had, everything's been able to get moved up quite quickly for me, Dr. Davis. We haven't had a conversation. I know my follow-up isn't for a little while with you, but the great thing is that even with all of the angels that I did have to talk to, the one thing I was very clear about is that someone, I think maybe it was even into your office, Dr. Turn, that you can line up 10 women with the same diagnosis, everything be the same, and that treatment is still going to be different because everyone is just so different, right, Dr. Turin?
I don't know if I try to come up with different analogies on a daily basis. It's possible that I gave that one, but that sounds right. I feel like that may be what I wouldn't put it past me if Dr. Singavi, that was one of yours. But yeah, that's right. Everything's custom. Everything's totally custom. But the more well-oiled your team is, the more options are going to be available to you. And I mean, for an example, is for you, sparing the nipples and having the result that you have, it was made available for you by virtue of Dr. Davis setting me up for success. And that is a situation where, when he does his part so well, then I can build upon that. And then I'm already way farther ahead than I otherwise would be. And so by the time that you get to the end, all of these extra differences will compound. So when all of your team members, really work well together, then at the end, you're going to have a much better outcome than otherwise, because sometimes if the breast surgeon is is just not able to leave me with as good of a tissue flaps as he, then there's just no way to achieve as good of a result, just because it's just impossible, and or you have more complications, etc. And so this is one of those situations where kind of everybody builds on each other.
Absolutely. And Dr. Davis, what are the different approaches that you have, whether it's just a lumpectomy, just a single mastectomy, or a double, what do you call it, bilateral mastectomy, the kind that I had? Even though we caught my cancer pretty early on, I didn't have to have radiation or chemotherapy or anything. My margins are negative, right, Dr. Singavi? Nothing in my lymph nodes. So how do you approach having that conversation with women, um, understanding that there is a difference in your approach and then what the result is going to be at the end of the day, Dr. Davis?
Yeah, I mean there are many different approaches in general. I think the one main thing is kind of how large the actual tumor is, and kind of the relative size of the breast. So if you have a cup, and you have a smaller cancer or a larger cancer, that would be different than if somebody had a D size cup, with a smaller cancer. So I think kind of looking at the tumor size compared to the breast ratio is kind of one important thing. And then kind of people in the middle, you kind of have these varying options. So lumpectomy, depending on the size of it, is kind of always a option for the most part, unless you kind of have a tumor that's too large compared to the breast. But lumpectomy essentially kind of removing that portion of tissue, and kind of reconstructing the breast in a certain way so you don't have any divots or dimples or anything like that. um, Next step is kind of mastectomy. So there are different types of mastectomy. One is called skin sparing mastectomy. So you remove the nipple but keep the rest of the skin. That's one option that I think probably majority of people go with overall. And a lot of times it's kind of related to the size of the breast or how much ptosis or droopage they have. Also kind of the location of the tumor. So if the tumor is close to the nipple, in general, majority of these cancers are ductal cancers. So the duct kind of goes all the way from the chest wall towards the nipples, and the nipples are kind of a bunch of ducts together. So when I talk about keeping the nipple or not keeping the nipple, we look at ductal cancers. That's something that I discuss. So if it's close to the nipple, then we kind of have to take the nipple as well and keep the rest of the skin. So that's a skin sparing mastectomy. Nipple sparing mastectomies is essentially kind of keeping everything overall. So keeping the nipple, keeping all of the skin, and kind of building on top of that. So if you have to, it has to be the right person overall to do that. Breast can be too large or too small for it, but that's kind of one thing that I think if a lot of younger women kind of go with if they have the option to. The other one is kind of a total mastectomy or kind of no reconstruction or anything like that. I usually find more older patients usually kind of go with that if they have to get a mastectomy, just because they don't want to have another surgery with another surgery in general, kind of for reconstruction and things like that. I think the main thing is kind of having realistic expectations. So just what is your goal overall? What do you want to look like at the end? And I know I still send them to the plastic surgeon just so they can kind of have a discussion with them as well. But some people come in, I'll say more younger patients come in and say, hey, my mother had breast cancer, my sister had breast cancer, my cousin had breast cancer. I want to do everything in my power to reduce that risk of it coming back and lean more towards a mastectomy or removing the entire breast. Probably more older patients will come in and say, well, the other breast is okay, nothing's wrong with that. I'd rather just have a lumpectomy, have a smaller surgery, and kind of, go on with my life. So I think that kind of having this what we call shared decision making, and kind of what your expectations are. If you want to have the young perky boobs again, then they usually have the mastectomies, and then we kind of go down that route. But looking at the size of the tumor, kind of compared to the breast size, is kind of one big determinant, and kind of your expectations of what you want to look like at the end. Nobody will ever look completely the same, but our goal is to make them look as much back to normal as possible. and kind of let them know each step how things will look once we get done with surgery.
And there are just so many things, like I said, so many things to think about. And I did not, I was one who didn't elect to go down that rabbit hole of research, 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 research. Like, I didn't want my life to just become breast cancer. And so I chose not to do a lot of research. But I do think that there's probably on that pendulum, there's probably more that I could have done. Right. I just decided to trust God and trust the team that was put together and do what my professionals tell me to do. Because it was a situation that you just never you never think that you're going to find yourself in, Dr. Singavi. So once a person figures out or finds out that they have breast cancer and they've removed the lump or they've had the mastectomy, what do you do now during that time afterwards to monitor what their body is doing, to identify if if there's cancer coming anywhere else in the body? Like, what happens after that, Dr. Singavi?
So after we remove the lump, the mastectomy, whatever we do, we need to look at what is the risk of this cancer showing up somewhere else. What do we need to do to minimize our patient's risk of dealing with this a year from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now? And we talked about those receptors. And we talked about the grading and the staging. It makes a huge difference to know that information. If, for higher stage disease, meaning that, if it involves a lot of lymph nodes, that cancer is telling you that it's trying to travel.
Okay.
We talked about those little cells, and if those little cells made it to, 7 to 10 different lymph nodes, it's telling you that it's trying to travel. And if it's trying to travel out of those lymph nodes, the lymph nodes are your off ramp to get to the bloodstream and go everywhere else. We have a higher chance of that cancer showing up somewhere else. So we need to talk about, okay, should we talk about chemotherapy? Should we do just hormone therapies? Should we be on targeted therapies for HER2? We risk stratify our patients for all of that. And based on that risk, if it's a really high risk, then we take steps together. You pointed out to researching a lot of things. We talk about what is a good clinical evidence out there for what's the best step for you. And so the first step then from our side is taking some sort of systemic therapy approach, meaning something that goes in your body and through the entire body to treat your particular type of cancer everywhere else. A lot of times that involves hormone therapies, which are pills that block the estrogen receptor or the progesterone receptor, or they reduce the amount of estrogen that patients have. There's also HER2-directed therapy if it's a HER2-positive cancer, which we add on to usually chemotherapy. And then for triple-negative breast cancers, if it's a larger tumor than 1 centimeter or so, we talk about chemotherapy because I don't have a target to hit in terms of turning off what's feeding the breast cancer. And from the monitoring perspective, once we're done with that initial reducing your risk of these microscopic cells being somewhere else, then we watch you usually every 3 months at the beginning with labs. And then if the labs are indicative of anything, we talk about doing scans. If it's a lumpectomy, Dr. Davis, Dr. Turner, and I will always talk about what's the best monitoring for you, whether it's every year in terms of mammograms and MRIs, or should we do every 6 months in patients who are higher risk? But we watch, and then breast exams every 3 to 6 months, depending on how often we're seeing each other and what's going on.
Wow. There's just so much involved. And I know that over the years, treatment, identifying, everything has gotten so much better. And so D-Man, I know that your mother had her own battle with breast cancer. Were these types of was this type of information, was it available to you then? Like, how has the times changed how how just us as regular people deal and approach breast cancer when our loved ones have it.
The funny thing you say that is that my mom kind of kept a lot to herself. And that's one thing that I encourage women, also men, because men also can get breast cancer as well, is that if you get diagnosed with this, do not keep it to yourself. Share it with loved ones. Like you said, find, like you say, like the buddy system. Like, have someone you can talk to. And at the same time, I mean, I think back in 2001, I mean, I wasn't old, but I wasn't young. It's just, I think I wasn't ready for her to hear that. So I mean, she kind of kept it herself, but I never really got involved as far as what she was really going through as far as with the doctor. I know she had a single or a mastectomy, and and that was it. And then it was fine, but then the problem was that then it spread and it got into her bones, and it just went from there, went rampant from there. But yeah, as far as I know, I mean, obviously, like I said, back in 2001, I think things have definitely changed. I know there's definitely vaccines. They're in trial right now. I'm looking at these great medical professionals right here, which is awesome. I work for the Cleveland Clinic, so it's like I hear what they're doing, and and obviously other hospitals as well. So it's like there's definitely things that are much further along now than it were back in 2001 when my mom was going through this issue as well. So for sure, we're going in the right direction. It's just that we need to continue with the support as well as the treatments, and just like I said, just sharing knowledge so that you have someone you can talk with, and so that you're not alone in this, because you're not alone in this, because you definitely have a support system. Get that support system for sure.
Yeah, I feel like life in general, you don't really understand how big certain clubs are until you join that club. Like, I didn't realize how many people had lived without their mothers until I lost mine. It's like, oh my goodness, I had all of these friends in my life who have lived without their moms. Like, how do you even, like, it couldn't even register to me. So I know that Dr. Turin, Dr. Davis, Dr. Singavi, you guys have other things that you need to do. So please let me know when you need to jump off. But I want to go into this next 15 minutes with you guys, if you can, to give me your best advice coming from the area of expertise that you're in. Dr. Davis, do you have any advice that you would give to women who are going through this journey, or if we know other women or men that are going through this journey from what you see in your daily occupation?
No, I think the main thing I kind of touched on earlier is doing self breast exams. I think that a lot of women or young women don't do it enough. So I think what I usually tell them is at least do it twice a month. So around your period and 2 weeks afterwards. And depending on the time, of your periods, breast density and lumpiness per se changes. So make sure you do. What I usually say is do it in the shower and do it while you're laying down. So at least do it twice a month, both standing and laying down. Other thing is if you do find something, go and get it checked out. So seeking out a medical professional, just to kind of at least evaluate that and get their expertise on it. And just going to get mammograms. So in general, what I usually say is the average risk of women, usually they should just go and get a mammogram at the age of 40. And you should get a mammogram every single year. If you're a higher risk or you have a family history, talk to your OB-GYN or someone because they may start earlier. But usually at the age of 40, you should have a mammogram every single year, every year.
I don't think I even knew that. I just assumed that I was getting one every year because I was over 50 and because I've had breast cancer in my family, aunts and, great aunts. So that is something that every woman should do then, Dr. Davis. After you're 40, have that mammogram every year.
Tawana, can I step in real quick?
Yes,
question
absolutely.
100% agree with that. But the funny thing is that my wife, she's adopted, and she has no idea what her medical history is. So she actually started when she was 30. So it just, once again, because she had no clue if it was anything in her genes or whatnot, or family history, whatever. It's like she actually started early because that lack of knowledge. So yeah, we always hear 40, but I just always throw that out there because, especially if you don't know your medical history, like she did, like she was literally left at a doorstep, and luckily she was found, but she had no history. But yeah, she started. Luckily, everything is clear. But yeah, she actually started when she was 30. So
Wow. And I know that now there is genetic testing that you can take, and I was able to get that done through this process as well. But that's like a whole nother conversation. If I'm not genetically predispositioned for breast cancer, then why the hell do I have breast cancer? But I just want to say thank you really quick. Dr. Dady Priest is rating. Thank you so much for coming in. All of you raters, come in, get comfortable. We're having a conversation about breast cancer with a very good team of doctors here in the Valley of the Sun who have been working on me and, probably a lot of other people too, besides me. But it's really amazing to get this kind of input from you guys. And so let's move over then to Dr. Turin. Like, what is your advice from your perspective to women who are going through this journey, or if we know other women or men who are going through this journey?
Um, a lot. It's a complex process. And I would say that, there's a couple things. I mean, number one, be honest with yourself and your surgeon about what you're trying to achieve. There are, one of my chief residents, when I started residency a really long time ago, once told me that happiness is expectations divided by reality. And so if your expectations are too high compared to what reality is able to be achieved, then you're going to be disappointed. And so this is one of those things where, when you start talking about, the very first part of the journey obviously is going to be, working with Dr. Davis, Dr. Singavi, the radiation people, chemo, all that super unfun stuff. And then when you're kind of done with that, then you're stuck with somebody like myself, and we're kind of picking up the pieces and putting things back together and trying to do some nice things. And the situations where I found that patients have been happiest is when they're honest with me about what they're trying to achieve. And then I can either say, okay, this is what we're going to go for. And this can be, for example, a situation where maybe somebody's a little bit older, and at first they were maybe a little bit modest, but we're moving along well with the reconstruction, and say, well, listen, you know what? I used to be a B cup, but now that you're telling me I could choose my size, maybe I wanted to have a double D or triple D or whatever. And that's a thing that sometimes is tough for women to say. They're like, well, listen, I'm 70, I should be modest, I shouldn't be doing these things. I say, well, why not? Be honest with what you want to achieve, and if we can get you there, we can get you there, make you happy. And the converse of that is that if somebody says, hey, well, I just want to look like I did before, but they just had a skin sparing mastectomy where the nipples are gone, and they had radiation, and maybe there was some complication along the way, and things are just not healthy as they used to be. And then in that case, I am able to coach them a little bit better, saying, hey, I appreciate that you were saying this, but let's set our expectations back a little bit, because we're probably never going to get you there. And I can show you some pictures of what these reconstructions can look like where we're starting off a little bit behind the 8 ball. So I think kind of honesty amongst all parties is super important. And it's also important to kind of trust your team, because you probably recall I told you this, but every time a person comes into me, after Dr. Davis, or anybody else like that sends them over, and they haven't had the mastectomy yet, I say, listen, between now and the time when you say we're done, we're going to have some issue at some point along the way. There's just no question about it. And it may be something really, really small, like, maybe you got a rash from an antibiotic, or maybe something disastrous, who knows. But it's important to understand that you want to figure out a team. That means both people, that means location, so you're not traveling 2 hours, all those things where you say, okay, I'm comfortable with these people because they're going to be there for me for the good parts when things are going really, really smoothly. And it's easy to look good if things are going smoothly, right? You're like, I got the best doctors, but you just got lucky.
Right.
But the key is who's going to be there for you when times are a little bit rough, when maybe, you're throwing up from chemo and you need to call somebody, be like, hey, I need a little bit more of the anti-nausea medication. Or maybe, you're saying that, hey, my reconstruction, there's a problem, and, I need help. Maybe, something's red or there's infection, who knows? And you got to call, your reconstructive surgeon or whatever. So I think that those kind of are the two that come to the forefront. But I mean, you can have me on here for like 2 hours. I'll just pontificate on random matters for you if you want.
I will say that I appreciated that about you the most, is that one of the first things you told me was to expect a complication. And, when you hear that, of course, your brain wants to think bad, bad, bad. But complications aren't always bad. Like my complication turned out to be very good, right, Turin, Dr. Turin?
So far, so good.
So far, so good. I'm not complaining at all. All right, Dr. Singavi. Now, from your perspective, from your expertise, and where you're coming from in this whole process, what would be your advice to people who are listening right now?
I think so. Getting cancer of any sort sucks. I wish I didn't have patients who had cancer. So the first thing I usually in our visit I say is, sometimes it's genetics. Sometimes we don't know why. But more than anything, this isn't your fault. You getting cancer isn't your fault. You don't deserve cancer. Nobody deserves cancer. I think a lot of patients will think that it's because I smoked cigarettes back when I was in college, or I'm overweight. That's why I got cancer. It's not. You didn't do this to yourself. It's something that happened inside your body. But we're going to tackle it head on. Number two, I think Dr. Turin, Dr. Davis, we've all said it. Finding a team that you're comfortable with is really important. If that's not me, that's okay. I want to make sure that every single question that you have is answered, that you're not sitting up at 3 a.m. researching, oh man, is this actually the right thing to do? I want you to ask me a million questions so that you know that everything that's happening with you, why we're recommending the things we're recommending, and why we're doing the things that we're doing. Knowing those two big pieces of information is really important, because as soon as you hear the word cancer, your mind goes blank. And as a medical oncologist, yes, I'm going to be part of your journey all the way through. But psychosocially, that's a big part of that. Knowing that you didn't do anything to cause this, then that you do have a team that you can trust, and that's going to take care of you.
Absolutely. And again, if it were not for Stephanie Piercy, I would not know who any of you are. So she is the one that had this team already put together, and she just knew right away that this was going to be the best team for me. I just have to say that Dr. Davis, when I walked into your lobby, I felt so comfortable because I looked at your staff, and it is the most diverse staff I've ever seen in any doctor's office ever. So I was put at ease pretty quickly when I walked into Dr. Davis's office. And then, when he has people working there with names like Miracle and Angel, and everything just made me feel so much better. And then he's Dr. Davis from Hyde Park, Illinois. I have a cousin, Dr. Davis, that lives in Hyde Park. Like, there are so many reasons, on top of the fact that Stephanie gave me your name, that made me so comfortable. And all three of you, I tell you, as far as, dealing with cancer goes, y'all have made it pretty great for me. And I just want to say thank you so much for what you've done for me and my journey anyway.
The stars were aligned for you, Tawana. That's what it was. It was destined to have this team.
Absolutely. So I have one person that's waiting. I have some people, my survivors, that I'm calling them survivors and victors, that I also wanted to join. But I have with me my amazing moderator. Her name is Sweet Jamaica to everybody here in these
Sweets.
But she's Monique to me, because she's just an amazing person. She hopped on right away and is doing moderator stuff. Don't stop doing that. So, Monique, or Sweet Jamaica, welcome in. I want to just introduce you to my doctors, Dr. Turin, Dr. Davis, Dr. Singavi. And I have Sweet Jamaica on here because she hasn't had her own journey, but she knows plenty of women who have. And it got me to thinking about how our loved ones go through this at the same time, because I feel like I've had my blinders on during all of this, just trying to take care of myself and keeping the stress away and making sure I'm eating correctly. And I knew what Aquaphor is and, wound care and all that stuff. But what our family members go through, I think is really important to talk about. So Sweet Jamaica, just, introduce yourself quickly and then tell us about your experience so far with this disease.
Okay, good evening. My name is Sweet Jamaica. How is everyone? My Twitch fam, doctors, nice to meet you. Nice to see you. DJ D Man, my time zone twin. What's happening? So, my situation or my experience with breast cancer comes from being a caretaker. My mom had breast cancer. She's a survivor. Her two sisters had breast cancer. They are also survivors. My mom had a single mastectomy. Her older sister had a double mastectomy, and her baby sister managed to keep hers. Um, I have two very dear friends who are cancer survivors. Well, actually, three very close friends who are cancer survivors. And it takes a lot to remain positive and to make sure that you're providing the care that is necessary pre and post op. And
hold on one second, Sweet Jamaica. I just want to say goodbye to Dr. Singavi, who says that he has to jump off now. So thank you so much for joining. I really
Thank you very
appreciate
much.
you.
I really
And I'll
appreciate
be seeing you soon.
Yes. Thank you very much for having me on. Thank you, everybody.
All right, thank you. Go ahead, Sweet Jamaica.
So yes, the patients who are battling this illness, are going through a lot, but it takes a lot out of the survivors, not the supporters as well, because we're trying not to worry. We're trying to remain positive. We're, doing all of the things that we can do to keep our loved ones, in good spirits. When my mom told me that her test came back positive for cancer, the breath was knocked out of me. I felt like an elephant was sitting on my chest, but the only thing I could do was ask her, so what are we going to do? And she said, we're going to fight. I said, well, let's go. Let's get it popping. And
right.
I felt the same way about my aunt, her older sister, and her younger sister, who, a lot of people say I look like. It's scary. But we have to make sure that if and when we do cry, and we want to be mad at the world, that we do it out of the eyesight and the earshot of those who are fighting, because they need all the encouragement, all the strength, all the whatever it is that that we can provide to help them.
Absolutely. I know when I told my kids that I had, and even my dad, I even heard it in my dad's voice, because we lost my mom to colon cancer, which was one of the questions I wanted to ask Dr. Singavi before he got out. But somehow, maybe Dr. Davis or Dr. Turin can talk to this. There are certain cancers that are linked in some way. And so when I learned that colon cancer was kind of linked to breast cancer, I think that we had those same moments. Sweet Jamaica, like, oh my gosh, cancer. We all went through that with my mom, and it did not end pretty. So,
Mm-hmm.
And let me really quick before we go anywhere else. I have Donna here ready to
Donna's here.
So let me bring Donna in.
Hey, my friend.
Hi,
Donna.
Hi, y'all.
I was introduced to Donna through Sweet Jamaica. Again, once you realize you're a part of this group, you have so many angels that come down and talk to you and try to, let you know that the end is not near and that you can survive. So really quick, I just want to check in with Dr. Turin, Dr. Davis. Are you guys good? You just let me know when you need to leave and we'll get you out of here.
Jump off. I'll have to jump off real quick.
All right. No worries. Thank you, Dr. Davis,
for having me. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes. And I'll be seeing you soon as well.
I will. Thanks.
All right. Dr. Turin, are you good or do you need to go as well? You got a couple minutes?
I have a couple minutes. Yeah. when my office staff open that door and tell me that I have to leave because they got to lock up, that's when I got to go.
Oh, okay. Well, you tell everyone I said hi. Denise,
Will
Alicia,
do.
like everyone, Shauna, just let everyone know that I said hello. Okay,
Totally.
Donna, let's get back to you. Tell us a little bit about your experience and what breast cancer surgery you ultimately received.
First of all, this is crazy for me. Hey Momo, hi y'all. Thank you for having me. Um, well, thank God I am 12 years survivor. I was diagnosed in 2010. And so, yay.
Yay.
So I actually have a long history of breast cancer on both sides, my father and my mother. I had actually found my first lump when I was 23, and I was rather large breasted. And back then, I had a really hard time with doctors and diagnoses because they said my breasts were fibrous, and because I was heavy chested, it was just probably because of that. So I've been doing regular mammograms on myself and going to have breast exams and mammograms since I was 23. When I found my first lump, it was benign, thank God. It was taken out, but I had been doing that, you know, about 8 to 12 months up until 2010. Um, you get into a routine with your doctors and you go and you have your exams and you get time. And I'm going to do this and I'm going to go to the store and I'm going to have lunch and I'm going to meet friends. And so I went in for my routine mammogram, and of course I hadn't found anything. So I just figured they wouldn't. And, you know, when the technician came back and said we need more film, I knew, because it was never a case where, you know, that was ever an issue. Long story short, I wouldn't have found it because I had what was called DCIS. So my cancer was in my milk ducts. So that's why I always encourage women, if you have a history, let your doctors know and go and get checked. Because if I hadn't been doing that, I would have never found it. Most people assume that it's always going to be a lump or some type of, mass or something that you're going to find
Right.
easily, when it's not always the case. So I definitely say 200%, especially if you know that you have a history, check. And if they're not giving you the answers that you want, or if in your gut you feel like they're not answering your questions, get a second, get a third, get a 10th opinion. But make sure that all of your questions are answered and that you feel comfortable with your, diagnosis from any doctor or, anybody that you see.
Absolutely. That is great. That's great. Something that I don't think that,
Yes.
again, as Black women, that we do enough to find a doctor that we trust. It's okay to trust in our medical professionals. It is okay. Just find someone that you trust and make sure that they become as comfortable with your body as you are, hopefully even more comfortable. And Dr. Turin, I just wanted to let you know that Donna here actually got the flap surgery, and she did everything in the same day, the breast cancer surgery and the reconstruction the same
Wow.
day.
Yeah, that's an interesting one actually here. So I'll point out. So there's a lot of things um, that are very particular about breast cancer specifically. Why? Because this is one of the things that we have in terms of healthcare conditions that there is so much support for. There is such a community around it. I mean, how many breast cancer awareness 5Ks do you see in every little city and town across America? Everywhere. You don't really have this type of thing for many other diseases. And one thing that has happened is obviously there's a lot of sharing of information. And there's lots of this comparison between different patients between, well, what did you do? And what did you get? What kind of options were you offered? And so on and so forth. And it's always very interesting because, so right now, obviously, so I'm in Scottsdale, Arizona. Phoenix is supposed to be the fifth largest city in the country. And the environment here, even though this is a big city, is extraordinarily different from when I did my training in Chicago. I was there for a
Right.
long time, and Chicago is also a huge city. And in reality, at first it was just because, we just logistically couldn't offer some of the same reconstruction options for women with breast cancer, just because just the hospitals weren't able to accommodate it. The infrastructure wasn't there, and there's just too few people. Like sorry.
Just make sure they're not kicking you out of the building, and then we'll be okay.
Yeah, that was my partner's computer. So, for example, if you're with breast cancer in Chicago, you can go to pretty much anywhere, and pretty much there's like 5 huge universities, 5 huge academic centers, and you can go to any one of them, regardless of what type of insurance you have, and you're going to get really good care. You're going to have all the options available to you because this is how the setup is over there. If you're here in Phoenix, your choices are severely limited because there's fewer surgeons, there's fewer
Wow.
facilities, etc. And so what happens is sometimes, that was one thing. For example, in Chicago, we did this surgery all the time that Donna got, where you did the mastectomy and did the flap at the same time. And guess what? The literature supports that that's actually a better thing to do. The literature supports that for women to have fewer surgeries, to have a quicker to skip to the chase faster, and to get the reconstruction quicker is better. Because back in the day, a bunch of guys, this was like, old dudes said that, hey, you know what? Sometimes maybe it's better if we do the mastectomy, leave them flat, so they see how terrible it is, so that when we do the reconstruction, they'll really appreciate it. That was actually a thought for a
Wow.
little while. And of course, it's clearly barbaric, so we don't do that anymore. But here, for example, it's very difficult to do the surgery, which Donna had, which is, do the mastectomy and the reconstruction the same day. It's just really hard to arrange. There's few places to do that. And so we were able to adapt. And so instead of now, the way we do it is where you have this tissue expander, which is what you had after the mastectomy, and then you do the flap surgery. And you say, well, doesn't sound as good, but it's actually a little bit better because we're able to adapt. And because of kind of how the scar forms, it's actually a markedly better cosmetic result. Just because it's able to shape the breast so much better. So you have a nice, round, perky breast as opposed to, the immediate reconstruction, which a lot of times can actually end up being a little bit flatter and less aesthetically pleasing. Totally went on a rant.
Wow.
Sorry.
Dr. Turner,
Yeah, thank you so
if I
much for.
could just interject, I agree.
Go ahead, Donna.
It was really difficult. We had gone through dates and dates and dates because my surgeon and then my reconstructive surgeon were trying to, because they wanted to get it all done that day.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, but fortunately, the only date that was available for both of them and their teams happened to be my mother's birthday. I didn't want to do it
Brutal.
that day, but like you said, and I had done my research, I didn't want to have to go back and get cut on again, or get opened up again. And I had said, whatever we could do, whatever date, and my mother even agreed, let's, so that it doesn't have to go under so many times. You don't want to have to keep dealing with anesthesia and, having to go back and add more trauma to the body if it can be avoided. So it doesn't happen often, but I was actually fortunate, I think, in that I got it all done in one day.
For sure. And that's good. But it's one of those things where, as you talk to, your friends and whoever's listening, if you're getting offered some options and say, well, listen, why am I being offered this and not what my friend was being offered? There's usually some good reasons for that. And, for example, if somebody's really comfortable doing breast reconstruction with implants and you're trying to force that person to do breast reconstruction with your own tissue, then you're really going to be pushing that doctor out of their comfort zone. And so that's when you kind of start to have some trouble. And so, or sometimes if you're trying to get them to do things that don't work for the schedule or the hospital or things like that. And so everybody ends up in a different place just because of where we are in the country, what hospitals we go to, the doctors that we get lined up with, so everybody's kind of playing a little bit of a different game. And so it's important to keep that in mind sometimes when you're comparing your journeys, that not everybody's playing the same monopoly board at the same time. We're kind of
Right.
are playing. Everybody gets a little bit of a different setup.
Right.
Yeah, and that's just one of those things that when you have a great team, you don't have to worry about that, right, Donna? That all that magic is happening in the background, and you just show up when they tell you to show up.
That's right. And I had the best. I had the best. Dr. Saletti and Dr. Um, forgive me, I'm having a brain fart right now, but Dr. Saletti was one of my surgeons. And
And tell
I
us
had the best teams ever. So
and tell us where you are, Donna. I don't know that you told us where you are.
Really?
I'm in Philly. Go Birds. Go Phillies. I'm in Philadelphia.
I had to give you that
Sorry,
opportunity
I laughed
because
a little.
Philadelphia's they're doing pretty well right now in the sports arena and like all aspects of it. So I just had to give you the opportunity to say it, Donna.
So sure do appreciate you.
You're very welcome.
Eagles. Philly going to the planet. Yes.
Well, we'll see. We'll see about that. Really quick, Monique, I wanted to get back to what you were saying about the support that you gave to your family, and because I feel like we kind of got off that conversation because we were trying to get other people in. But go back to that, please, and tell us, kind of the emotions that you experienced, the things that you were experiencing, just being there for your mom and your sisters and all the people who have been in your life that's had to go through this journey.
The biggest thing I felt was fear because I didn't want to lose my mom or my aunts or Donna or Irene or Kim or any of my friends. Um, but when mom said, when I asked her what she, what was next, and she said we're going to fight. Well, I put my boxing gloves on too, and whenever I could see in her eyes that she was feeling defeated, or when I could tell that surgery day was coming, and I could see the fear and the hesitation in her eyes, I was like, no, 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 because if you start, I'm a start, and then Dad and Chris are going to be looking like, what are we going to do? No. And I'm sorry I'm getting emotional because I remember when Donna told me that she was diagnosed, we were actually all in North Carolina for a family reunion, and she was feeling some kind of way, and we all had to snatch her, but we also understood, we knew where she was coming from, we knew how she felt, and the only thing I knew to do for my best friend was to keep her lifted. If it meant acting a fool, if it meant calling her and singing stupid songs, if it meant sending stupid text messages, if it meant just calling her to see how she was doing, um, pre-surgery and post-surgery, calling her and asking her, "Well, how's your titties?" That kind of stuff. Want me to come rub them for you? Whatever it took for me to, keep her in positive, lifted spirits. Um, when my mom's older sister had her first breast removed, she didn't have them removed at the same time. Every day for almost 2 weeks, I would call her, "Hey, Auntie, how's your titty?" Every day, she would laugh hysterically, but it helped her get through what she had to go through. I
Absolutely.
always offered to go up to North Carolina and rub the titties, make sure they felt better. And my aunt was like, "I ain't got no titty now. Well, I'll just rub the chest. What you need it rubbed? You want me to put some salve on it? You want some liniment? Whatever."
It's Aquaphor. There's a name for it now. Aquaphor, right,
Just
Dr. Turin?
Aquaphor. Exactly. But
Love that stuff.
for some of the things that I felt like I needed to do. And at night, when I prayed at night and in the morning, there were always tears, but they never saw it. There was no way in the world I was going to let my family and my friends see the tears and the fear in my eyes. Tears and the fear in my eyes. And as supporters, we can't allow that to happen. And if we do, it can't happen all the time.
Right. Yeah. That's what faith is,
Yeah.
right? Dr. Turn,
Yeah.
I just have to go. I just have to tell you that we're getting a lot of comments in the chat here that's just saying thank you so much for being open and honest and educating us about the process and what it really looks like. So,
Sure.
and that's one of the things I love about you. Like you always just keep it real.
Yeah, well, because it's one of those things. The truth always comes out. So why dance around it? Let's just cut to the chase. I have probably about maybe 5-10 minutes if anybody has any questions before I have to run.
Yeah, if anyone has any questions, I do have a message from DJ Relly Rel. My sister is a breast cancer survivor, and me and my two brothers were there every step of the way with her. Support system is so important, but the attitude you have to have is also key. My
Right.
sister attacked the diagnosis, and I know that's why everything went so well. She's been cancer free for over 10 years. Absolutely. Hey, Light
Awesome.
Eyes, welcome in. Absolutely. The way that you approach it, I think, is definitely key. And I will say, listen, it doesn't really, to me, your faith in God is so important, but it does not prepare you for this journey at all. And so let me bring in Monica. I have one more person that I want to bring in. We're going to bring in Monica. Hi, Monica.
Can you guys hear me? Is my mic okay?
I can hear you absolutely. Monica is actually scheduled for her surgery. November, is it November 17th, Monica? The 16th?
Yep.
So just tell us really quickly about your journey so far in this process, whatever you want to share,
Okay.
and let us know what's coming for you.
Yeah, so I was officially diagnosed in April of this year. And it was definitely it was a really emotional time because there was, a lot of the waiting to find out, at what stage it was, had it spread, and in that time, going on the internet and reading just a lot of things and some things that, maybe wasn't like smart to start reading like threads on Facebook posts and that sort of thing, because I think my mind went to the worst initially. And so, sorry, I'm a little nervous.
No worries.
Yeah, so I kind of kept a lot of that inside, and then trying to kind of like make sense of it myself. And then at that point, I started to tell family members. I told my husband and my daughter, and I think at that point it started to become a little bit easier because I could lean on people for emotional support, especially in the times where I was just feeling unsure of what the outcome would be. I was given, relatively good news considering the circumstances, that I was at stage 2A, and that, things indicated that it had not moved into my lymph nodes. So I think at that time I just, felt a little bit more positive, I guess. And I didn't think that it would result in me necessarily needing a mastectomy, but I'm open, to that and want to be risk averse in this whole process. And that is what was recommended by the oncologist surgeon. And after reviewing some of those records with them, I agree, and I'm really nervous about the surgery. But just taking it one day at a time, and I think this is going to be the next big step in this whole journey for me. But I also realize it'll probably be one of the bigger steps, just trying to recover and see what life is like after mastectomy. But it sounds, I've heard a lot of great stories. So while I'm nervous, I'm optimistic.
Absolutely. And I know you're getting everything done at once as well. Your breast removal and your implants the
Yeah.
same day, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. Yeah. Dr. Turin, I feel like I eventually kind of ended up being in that route. Probably if I had decided to do the implants earlier, maybe we could have done it all at once.
Yeah, again, these are different. These conversations are very personal. This is a great example of exactly the thing that I was talking about before, where it's tough to compare options between two different patients because something that's direct to implant, right, which is where you get the mastectomy, you just swap it out, you put an implant in there, and the goal is to make you look like somebody that you just got in a breast augmentation and everything looks great. That's in the perfect world, that's what you get when you wake up. However, the issue is that so this was tried a number of decades ago, and what happened was it didn't work. The complication rate was extremely high, and these reconstructions just failed. And so then we started to do these whole things with the tissue expanders and your own tissue and putting it under the muscle and all this other type of stuff. And some time went by, and the implants got better, our technologies got better, the breast surgeons got better. And then a few years ago, people started to do this again. We're saying like, hey, we're just gonna throw the implant in there, and it should work, right? And kind of conceptually, yes, it should, but it's different for different people. It's one thing if a person comes in and they have a B cup breast, and they want to stay a B cup, or maybe even be a little bit smaller, and the breast surgeon is excellent, and they leave it in a place where it's a perfect envelope. And that's like, okay, then maybe putting just direct the implant becomes extremely reasonable. But then there's situations where, what if you want to go direct the implant, but the implant needs to be, massive, 650 cc's or something like that, and somebody that has a bigger chest,
Right.
that's a little bit of a bigger person. And so putting that in at the same time, that is not the same surgery. It may
Right.
seem the same way to, a person, but it's got the completely different set of risks. And so that's why, your surgeon, I'm sure you guys talked about this, said like there's certain risks that come along with that. And you're just balancing that versus doing more surgeries. Obviously, I do surgeries every day. So to me, a surgery is like not a big deal. To me, I think of this, I say, why are people ever worried about it? It's just, you take your car to get an oil change or a transmission service. No different, right? You're
It's
just a
so
sleep
fun.
for it.
That's great that
But
we can compare this to an oil change, Dr.
yeah, but I understand that to somebody that doesn't play this game every single
Right.
day, it's a little bit of intimidating, experience, and so it makes sense to me that people say, "Well, I don't love surgery, so maybe I want to do less of it." Um, that's reasonable, but all of these options are available as long as
Dr.
you have
Torrin,
a good
before you
relationship
go,
and you understand what you're getting into. I'm sorry.
I was
I'm
just
sorry.
going to
I think
ask before you go, I'm sorry to interrupt
yeah,
you. Can you hear me?
yeah.
Let me make sure I'm good. I chose not to get implants. I chose the route of using my own tissue as far as my breast, because once again, I didn't want to have any more surgeries. It's just like with anything else, at least from what I was told. Maybe I wasn't given the proper information, but if you get an implant, they have to be replaced, correct, after so many years, or was it false?
No. And that again, these things
As
are
part of
like I
my
said.
option, I didn't want
The
implants.
Correct.
Go ahead.
Your general understanding is correct. Where statistically, if you look at the numbers, when you
Okay.
look at the studies by Joe Cerletti, and he's a giant in the field, and you look at these big studies, and let's say we look at 10,000 women, they got their autologous tissue, their own tissue, and 10,000 women that got implants, and you look at them over the years, you will see
Right.
that statistically the women that have their own tissue will have fewer surgeries throughout their lifetime. However, the implant surgeries are small surgeries versus your own tissue surgery, that's a big surgery. So it's kind of a question of, I tell my patients, I do both,
Right.
right? So I do lots of implants, and every week I do, the free tissue. And so I'm totally unbiased because I don't care, whichever one. I do them both.
Okay.
And so I tell patients, well, would you rather have kind of one big thing, or would you rather have a number of small things? And everybody has a slightly different preference, and they also look different, right? Because your own tissue is your own tissue, so it's going to be kind of a flatter, more natural appearing breast, whereas with an implant it's going to be a rounder, more artificial looking breast. And so then there's a little bit of subjectivity to it as well. And so at the end of the day, it kind of really becomes the patient's choice. Every once in a while, unfortunately, because it's 2022 and we live in America, other things like, where you're living and what kind of facilities you have access to and what kind of insurance you have and stuff like that sometimes will limit people in terms of, for example, like there's sometimes people that
I was going to get into that.
Yeah, sometimes like people will come see me from even Tucson or some place that's a little bit. I mean, again, we're in Arizona. It's not like we're in the boonies here, but even so, they'll come and they'll see me. Well, there's no surgeon down there that will take Medicare, and say, well, I'll take care of you, and so there are kind of restrictions. So just the economic reality.
Wow, I didn't realize
Thank you.
that there are actually places that won't take your insurance, and then that really dictates what your options are.
Oh,
Right.
sure. If you look at if you look at this, there was a lot of literature about this a couple of years ago, when obviously by the law, right? By the law, insurance has to cover reconstruction after breast cancer, right? Because it's still we're considering this, we're still fixing the disease. However, there's tons of women in the U.S. that don't have access to reconstruction, and so they never even get offered that choice. Obviously, to me and my people, that's kind of what we focus on because that's where we come in afterwards. But they say, well, hey, you have breast cancer, we're going to take your breast out and call it a day, and this is the way that it's treated. And if you think about it, if you're in rural, a state that doesn't have a lot of doctors, and you don't have access to technology and education to kind of figure out what your options are, and you might not have friends like you guys have friends that tell you what your options should be available, and you're going to say, okay, sounds good, doc, do your thing. And then they do it and that's it, you're done. And then maybe a few years down the road, you go somewhere and somebody else tells you, like, hey, just so you know, there's kind of some of these other things that are available to you. And so that happens still quite frequently.
Dr. Turn, how long have you been a surgeon?
So I was in training at Northwestern University in Chicago from 2014 to 2021. And I finished my residency there 2021. And I've been here in practice in Scottsdale for a little bit over a year at this point. So, 8 years, with 1 year being kind of solo out here. Well, I mean, with a partner, but, kind of in
I still haven't met him. I don't know why I've been there so many times. I have not met Dr. Tesler yet.
Well,
and
we're
that
always, if I'm in the OR, he's in clinic and vice versa. Because, we're both got big personalities. So if the two of us are together, no work gets done.
Dr. Turner, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
I hear about the term triple negative. And of course, off the top of my head, I'm like, well, if it's triple negative, that means there's nothing there. But I keep hearing that's like one of the worst forms of cancer. So, and just like Cliff Notes, I know you have to go pretty soon. What is triple negative?
So I'm only going to give you a little bit of what I remember from this part. And this is intentional because, again, there's a website. It's nccn.org. It's the National Cancer Centers Network. And what these people do is it's a bunch of oncologists, cancer doctors, and they get together and they come up with guidelines of how we should treat these different cancers and look at the statistics and say which one of these is a bad one, which is a good one, what kind of chemo should we do, etc. And so all of these people, like Dr. Singavi that was on before, they really know what exactly that means and what it entails for your prognosis and your treatment. My understanding of this is very basic, just because it's not kind of my specialty. But as I recall, it just has to do with the fact that if your cancer cells don't have particular types of receptors, then they don't have the targets for certain types of chemotherapy.
Okay.
And the issue is that chemotherapy changes like every 6-12 months. And the agents they have now are completely different from what they were, back when I studied this. And so at this point, I defer completely to, like people like Dr. Singavi, because, they know the latest in their field and I know the latest in my field. And so, he knows. That's why the team thing, again, is so key here, is because he knows what kind of chemo you're going to need, but he doesn't know what's the hottest, sexiest, best feeling, breast implant that you can get. And, what kind of thing you can get to, put some fat around it and, make it look real good. And, maybe do a BBL at the same time, so that's kind of my world. And so that's why, I kind of only know just enough kind of to send people over to them when they need it. And that's about it.
Okay. Thank you.
And it's one of the things when I was my last hospital stay, when I was able to get my implants in, that same day, you did a flap surgery. Is that the right term for it? Flap surgery?
Yeah.
So, what are the benefits of that? Like, because one of the things that stood out in my head was people think that it's like a tummy tuck, but it's not.
Correct.
So, explain what would be the benefit of getting that flap surgery over just being able to get the implants.
Sure. So I'll give you kind of a quick Cliff's notes. That's keep in mind, this is all general, right? So it's obviously very different for different people. But in general, right? So a breast is two pieces. It's skin and then stuff that's inside of it, right? So it's like a pillowcase. And you got a pillow inside of it, right? You need to have both pieces. And so to build both. So if you have skin, you can either through because it was left behind by the breast surgeon or because you made enough skin with a tissue expander, then you can stuff the inside with something else, and you can stuff it either with an implant or you can stuff it with your own tissue, which usually comes from the belly, right? And so conceptually, the two things are they do a fine job of making a mound, right? So that when you're wearing a bra or bikini or whatever it is, you have some fullness on your chest. But the issue why people like the flap surgery is because once it's healed, it is essentially maintenance free, where it acts and behaves and ages just like your own native breast would. Because what you're doing is so a woman, right? A female individual, when you're younger, you have relatively more gland and a little bit of fat. As time goes on and you get older, you have less gland as it atrophies because of hormonal changes, etc., and you get more fat, right? So that's why with older women, the breast will be softer, it will be droopier, it'll have a different shape, right? So what you have eventually is, once you're an older woman, is you have essentially mostly skin and fat, and this I'm kind of grabbing that lower roll on your tummy, below your belly button. That's what it is. That's skin and fat. And so people think, well, conceptually just makes a lot of sense. Why don't we replace like with like, right? You have skin and fat that you're missing. Let's put some skin and fat back there and call it a day. And the issue is it's actually really good. It makes sense. It feels just like a breast because it's the same stuff. It's trouble free because you never have to worry about it rupturing. You don't have to get MRIs to check for implant leakage. It's never going to go anywhere because it's stuck in place by scar. And so that part of it is very, very attractive. However, as everything else in life, there's always a price to pay. And the price to pay is the donor site, right? So the donor site is the abdomen. So you're robbing Peter to pay Paul. And the question is, well, how wealthy is Peter? And there are some people for whom it's very easy to take a piece of tissue. Somebody that is relatively slender, they maybe had a bunch of kids or lost a bunch of weight, and then they have kind of a bunch of skin and fat hanging off their belly, and they're otherwise slender, and that's an easy surgery, and that predisposes them to a low complication rate. If somebody's relatively big, if somebody has a little bit of extra, stuffing or fluff on them, I'm from Chicago, folks from the Midwest were heavier, that makes the surgery harder. You're asking more of the body to heal. If somebody's got diabetes, blood pressure, if their abdominal wall is very round, then, your risks start to go up. So your benefits stay the same, but the risks start to go up. So your risk reward ratio starts to change. And so if I say to you, well, listen, if you do the implant, that maybe you'll have some surgeries in the next 5 to 10 years, but each surgery is going to be, maybe an hour and a half. It's outpatient. You're barely going to have any pain. It's not a big deal. And it's really easy to tolerate, and you're back to work pretty much the next day. Or I say, or we do this other surgery and it should go fine, but if it doesn't, you may have a problem in your abdomen that may take quite a while to resolve, or, it's low right now, but back in the day, people used to get like hernias and bulges and stuff like that because you have to cut through the fascia, and things of that nature. And there's a really big scar across the bottom of the abdomen too. And so, there's a big price to pay. And like I said, I'm not biased because I do both. I just did
Yeah.
this free flap surgery yesterday, and it's not an easy thing to harvest that abdomen and to heal it. So I think that right now they're pretty much equivocal. That being said, in the US, the vast majority of women, probably 9 out of 10, if not more, get reconstruction with implants.
Yeah.
That's for two
And I,
reasons. Because number one, it's easier, it's conceptually simpler. People understand that they can get it, right? If I explain to you, listen, I'm going to take the breast out, I'm going to put an implant in place. Pretty much everybody listening, medical and non medical, is going to get the concept. But then also, number two is that it's much easier to find somebody that has the expertise to do that, right? Because it's pretty straightforward to throw the implant in. The free flap surgery that Donna had, that takes two surgeons and 8 to 12 hours. So, that not every place is going to be able to have that kind of those kind of resources.
so
That's awesome.
one of the areas, as I was making this decision that I struggled with for the fat grafting surgery was that I wasn't a candidate for the abdominal area, and so they were going to have to get it from two places, so in between my thighs and then on the outer parts of my buttocks, so like where
Mhm.
ends in the leg meets. Um, and just after discussing more about the incision that would be on the inner thighs, that it's prone to complications and healing. It's very tender. It takes a long time to come around. And I think for me, well, that would have been the most ideal, and I would have probably gone that route. The idea of the complications from several, incisions now trying to harvest the fat and essentially is what led me to make the decision to get the implants. But they did say I could revisit it down the road if I was not pleased or happy with the implants. I don't like the way they feel, down the road I could revisit and have the fat grafting instead.
That's exactly it. And so, what for everybody that's kind of going through this journey, you always want to think about it. What are the irreversible steps, right? Where you're only going one way and you can never go back the other way, right? So, for example, like Tuana, you have implants in right now. If you ever change your mind, it's easy to take them out and do something else, right? But once for Donna, you've had that surgery. That's not a surgery that can ever be reversed, right? You've already paid the price. You're never going to get that money back. And so, there are kind of these certain decision making points as you're going through. And Monica, I think your thinking is great. Is that you say, okay, well, this sounds like a little bit too much right now. Why don't I try this other much easier option? And if I change my mind down the road, you go down that road too. Again, it's a little bit different for everybody, but you're right. Yeah, that's much more advanced surgery that they're talking about for you with the thighs.
Yeah.
That's pretty exotic.
Yeah, I didn't even know that that was an option. I thought it was, that surgery was one way and one way only.
Yeah, no, that's like option number maybe 4 or 5
Okay.
on most people's decision making ladders.
Donna, how did you learn about your cancer? Did you tell us that part of your story yet? I know that you had dense breasts, but
What
what was the
Well, I had mentioned that I had been going in for mammograms since I was 23 when I had found my first lump. So I was just going in just for preventative measures, and when I went in for my routine mammogram, that's when they found it on the film, and so
Okay,
now they found it, and it was fat, and it wasn't found in lump form. It was in my milk duct.
right.
So it almost looked like I was letting down as if I was breastfeeding. So it was odd. Um, but fortunately for me, because I had been doing it and getting the mammograms and going in for so long, they caught me at 0 stage. So thank God I didn't have to go through chemo or anything like that. So it had
That's
metastasized
good.
or anything like that. So um, I was fortunate in that area. Dr. Turn, I just wanted to make a statement about choices. Um, I had run the gambit on. They had taken from implants to the grafting and everything, and for because I had had other surgeries, it was just a choice that I didn't want to bother with the implants because I just didn't want to have any more surgeries. And for me, that was the choice that I had made and back, and it was offered to me. And we had several times before my surgery. And for me, I just didn't want to have that on my mind, knowing that eventually I would have to go back and have it done. I wanted it all to be me. I just didn't want to feel like personally that I was adding something to me that wasn't me. And because that option was there for me, I decided that I did not want implants. Making it really clear, this is why one of the reasons why I believe we're having these conversations is one, do your own research and make up your own mind. Your surgeon is going to tell you a whole lot of different things and they're going to recommend a whole lot of things. Do your own due diligence. No matter how you feel about it, make sure that whatever decision that you make, you are ultimately comfortable with it. Your surgeon is has to do what you ask them to do. They're going to tell you every risk in every area. But for me, 12 years ago, I chose that. I didn't want to get cut. I avoid it. Let's go the route of avoiding it. And yes, I have a scar hip to hip. I look at it as another tattoo. My body is covered in tattoos. It's just another tattoo for me. That's my battle scar. Look at it as if that's going to be something that, oh, well, I decide another way. I have to worry about this scar band around my waist. That's my battle scar. And I want everybody that's on this podcast to know you do your own due diligence. At the end of the day, whatever you decide, make sure that it's for you, anybody else. And I just wanted to be real clear when I had this
Absolutely.
decision for me not to ever get cut on again, I could avoid.
It's also personal, right? Like what is it that
100%.
where are you going to reach your limit? And believe you me, Donna, up until the day I was in the hospital, maybe a couple of days before, I had actually decided to do implants instead of the flap surgery. So Dr. Turin was getting me set up for flap surgery in January. And then it just, after getting more and more and more information for me, it just made more sense to, especially when I learned I could always go back, right? I could always go back and change it
Right.
if the implants don't work. Cause I just was a little bit nervous about having foreign stuff in my body. Like that's just, things that in my whole life, I didn't get the birth, stuff that they put in your arm. Like having foreign stuff in my body, I just always thought was weird. But with all of the information as it was coming in, I decided to do the implants. And I'm happy I made that decision, by the way, Dr. Turin. I am happy for that.
Good. Yeah, these are all personal things. As long as you feel good about it, you do you, as the young people say.
Yeah.
Yeah, but to Donna's point, I really would have preferred to go the route of no surgeries ever again. I was at the point of making the decision to go with the different fat grafting and harvesting, but I couldn't get over the level, I guess, of recovery that it was going to be. But I would have done the same thing that Donna did for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, it's all I feel like I've had to think about things that I never had to think about before. But what I do definitely know is that first surgery, Donna, you were able to get it all done at the same time, and Monica, you're going to do the same thing. But that first surgery was so much more painful than the second surgery. And I think that's just because of the nerves and everything that was cut that first time, right, Dr. Turin?
Correct.
Yeah. And I have had, Donna, I don't know about you, but I felt like Dr. Turn sewed in his cell phone, and I've had like vibrations. I've
Yeah.
had times when it just felt like both of my breasts were on fire, just on fire. Like I've experienced so many things. And not to mention when you stand in front of the, in front of the mirror and you just don't look like yourself, and it's hard to even just look at yourself
You
after the
know,
surgery.
you are being reintroduced to yourself all over again. It's different. It's definitely different.
Yeah.
I need to speak to Sweet Jamaica real quick, and I want to say thank you again. Y'all just don't know. This one right here has been a rock for so many people, and she has really given and given and given and loved on us and cheered us on. And there is so much to be said for support. You it's so much going on in your head, and there's so many things. And as women, we put more on ourselves than we need to a lot of times. And when you
Why are you
have
doing
someone
this
that's
to me?
truly in your corner, and that's truly, because I love you, and I want the
No.
world to know that I love you and I appreciate you, my friend. And I want to say thank you in front of everybody and let everybody know how much I truly do appreciate being there for me. Lord have mercy. I just
No.
wanted to say thank you because it was a lot. And you have always been there. And don't ever, everybody that's listening and that's on the chat, if you have it, take advantage of it. If you don't have it, go find it. There like support and people when it comes. I just want to say thank you. I'm sorry, Tana. Sorry, y'all.
No, absolutely. Like it ain't no secret around these Twitch streets how valuable and amazing Sweet Jamaica is.
Absolutely. Sweet
And
Jamaica,
that's
go ahead and cry, sucker.
I just want y'all to know she gonna get me back after we done. So
I am.
Yeah.
I am.
and she's reached out to me, like she hasn't asked me how my titties are doing yet, and she definitely has not offered to come and rub on them for me.
okay,
Outstanding.
she's fired today. She's fired today. She'll have her job back tomorrow.
Listen,
However,
real quick, Dr. Turn. Listen, you have to understand, Dr. Turn. The Twitch family here is truly a family. I've been fortunate enough to meet Sweet Jamaica as well as Tawana in person, and but even people I haven't met in person, have not met in person, are like family here. So this laughter here is like it's just.
Oh,
I
I
mean,
love
this
it.
is
No, this is fantastic.
it's family. It's long distance family that we've never met before. So
No,
Amen.
it's
this is
fantastic.
real.
Support like that is how you win and how you get through the tough times. So
Absolutely.
Yeah.
that's just I love seeing that. That makes every time I see something like that, one of my patients coming in, they got that kind of support network with a friend or family member, or whatever. I know that they're going to do well in the end, regardless of what happens, because at the end of the day, we're trying to achieve an emotional goal, which is somebody feeling good. We're not trying to achieve some objective outcome of, listen, I want something that looks this. No, the point is that you're feeling good, you're living the life you want to live, you're doing the things you want to do. That's the actual goal. And
Yep.
having that support network around you is going to get you there, regardless of what are all the other medical things that happen. I do have to run. I got to pick my kid up from the daycare. I put my Instagram handle in there. I don't think the other doctors, they're more medical doctors, so I don't think that they have social media things.
They're not as hip, right? That's what you're saying, right?
yeah,
No, they don't.
someone asked
Yeah,
about that. Yeah, they don't
yeah.
do social media.
There you go. But yeah, absolutely. Anybody can feel free to hit me up in the DMs, as they say. I'm always happy to answer questions, etc. But otherwise,
Yes.
everybody have a good night.
Well,
Okay.
and I just
Thank
want
you
to
so
let you
much.
know that Kelly Vision said, "Welcome to the family. You are now officially part of the
I
family."
appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
All
Dr.
right.
Turn.
Thanks a lot.
Good night.
Bye, everybody.
So I really wanted
Thank you.
to make sure that we got the opportunity to talk, amongst ourselves, being survivors or allies of survivors, about what do we feel like we needed from each other the most? Like, what is it that you really needed? And Monica, I know you haven't gone through the process yet, but there you're gonna learn some things right now. Like,
Okay.
what is it, Donna, that you really felt like you needed the most that you got that you really could not have done without? Besides prayers, because we know that's first.
Uh, oh, yeah. Well, the Warriors were definitely they were on their knees, but just um, when you one of the things that I felt, and I don't know if anybody else went through this, I felt guilty. Like when I got diagnosed, I felt like immediately like I did something wrong, even though I knew that it was a possibility because of my history. But I
That's
just
some hell
immediately
you raised
when
back in college.
stuff like this thing, maybe it could be paid back for that. I agree because child, there was no grass growing under nobody's feet over here. You know this, man. But anyway, but anyway, um, I don't know. I just felt guilty. Like if I had done this or if I wasn't doing this or if I done, and then you go into those stages. You go into denial, and then you go into okay, let's fight. Let's do what needs to be done and get this done. And then of course you don't not let me rephrase. You don't automatically reach out because it's almost like, oh Lord, now I gotta tell bad news, and you feel like, well, if I tell them they going through their own stuff and I don't want to put stuff on other people, and you start having all of these feelings and support. I can't stress that enough. Just knowing that there is always a shoulder or a ear or just somebody sit there with you or listen to you vent or be there with the rub on your titties or you know afterwards, pat your back before, just support you, and like now, laughter and just stuff that just can take your mind off of it for a few seconds. That you're not always thinking about the disease. You don't want to give the disease that much power and energy. You want to
Yeah,
deflect and be able to put that someplace else for a minute, not always think about cancer and sickness and
absolutely.
surgery and all of that mess. So support. Like I said, if you don't already have it, find it. There is always avenues for some people that you can call, websites, just support. Always have your tribe around.
I'm sorry, I'm laughing at
I
DJ
know what you
Dimmy.
think.
That's like
We
another
we,
T-shirt, right?
we making a t-shirt on that one. Hashtag titty rub. That's the word. That's the word of the evening.
Word of the
Hashtag
evening.
hashtag titty rub.
Titty
Okay,
rub.
we
Yes.
At this juncture, it
oh
is what
Lord have
it is.
mercy. Okay.
I'll be that.
Listen, one of the things that my angel told me was that um everything is going to hurt in the beginning. And I'm saying this for you, Monica, and for everyone else who's listening who may be getting ready to go down this road. That first, like, the pain is real, and you thank goodness you have someone at home with you to help, Moni, because like literally I couldn't move my elbows from my side without it being very painful. So like
Right.
there's so even like putting the soap pumping the
You're
soap
so
to
sweet.
wash your hands is painful. Like the pain in the beginning is so real, Moni. I want you to just
So,
prepare for that.
like, how many weeks in are you talking?
4 weeks easily for
Whoa.
me after that first surgery. And the only reason why I know it was 4 weeks is because like 4 weeks later I had the second surgery and I was still hurting
Wow.
when I got the second surgery. So take advantage of all the help that you can get.
Monica,
Um, And I
The
owe you
pain
like
for
lots
me,
of
I
food,
was out for 3
Monica.
months.
Oh wow.
3 months.
Yeah,
And did
3 months. Well,
did
the first month was terrible. After the third month was good when the fourth month, but that the first 30 days, I was I kudos to my husband because I couldn't wipe my own behind, and I know that's
wow.
TMI, but I'm just it was to
That's
the point
We
yeah.
where
might
if you
we might
I
have to
my
revisit
arms
this.
are all like in bed, going to the bathroom. I mean, it's
Right.
major surgery, and I don't know if I
Right.
mentioned this to Juana. I My surgery was 14 and a half hours. I had
Yes.
two
Wow.
teams of 7 people because I went
Wow.
from one surgery right into augmentation. And
Right.
so, yeah. And then I was in a medically induced coma for 48 hours. So I
What?
went into surgery on
Wow.
Monday and came out on Wednesday. Yeah. Yeah.
Why did
So the
they do the
pain,
medically induced
it's
coma?
unbearable because there was so, I, okay, since we're here, when I say large, I was a 38F.
Oh
So I'm gonna
wow.
let you picture that. That's extremely
Yeah.
large for to be 5'2".
Oh
Mm-hmm.
wow.
So I literally, when they took my breast, I had a hole in my chest.
Oh my
That's how
Wow.
much tissue I lost and how much breast I lost.
God.
Okay.
Wow.
So my body had gone through so much trauma that they
Yeah.
wanted to make sure that there was nothing that was going to interrupt the healing. They didn't want me mobile at all. They wanted my body to come back as soon as it possibly could. And
Wow.
because of such a long surgery and because of so much that had to be done, that's where, and it's talked about it. Knew going to, we talked all of this and let me know this is where this is going to go because of what we have to do. And so, um, and and I'm hoping that I'm being open enough to where I'm not trying to scare anybody, but like I
Yeah.
said, due diligence. Ask the questions. If it's in your gut, follow your instinct. As a woman, we have scent that we don't pay attention to a lot of times.
Yeah.
Right.
And if it's in here, ask it. You might think it could be the dumbest question, and that will be the one that will just that
No
need to
such
be
thing
healed.
as yeah.
So I
Definitely
knew
no such
about the
thing as a
coma.
dumb question.
There's no such thing as a stupid question at all.
Yes.
At all.
Absolutely.
All right.
Yep.
And so
Don't
yeah,
hesitate to ask questions. And we are literally at the end of our 2 hours. Sometimes it always amazes me. You think,
wow.
wow, 2 hours is a long damn time. And then it's like, oh man, that 2 hours flew by.
Yes.
Can I add
DJ,
Real,
something real quick?
yes, please.
Ladies, if you have to have a mastectomy, do not attach your womanhood to your breasts. You are a woman because that's how you were created.
Please.
right.
Yeah.
Boobs
Absolutely.
don't make you a woman.
I love
Same thing
that.
with hair as well, because my mom, she
Amen
had
to
a
that.
real issue with her hair.
Yeah.
And I was at the time I was cutting hair in college, so I was like, you know what? I'll fade you up. And I got her a nice little fade. She was bald, she looked good. And I'm like, you look good, mom. You're all right.
Yeah.
You're still beautiful. Doesn't matter.
Mhm.
Like you said, you're still a woman. Same thing, exactly.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yes. Thank you, sweet Jamaica. That is
Monica, whatever you decide, you have a tribe now, girl. You are a member of the
Oh,
family,
thank
whether
you.
you want to be or not, you're stuck. So
Amen.
I guess Tawana didn't warn you. She didn't warn you about us, but now you Craig / Phillies fan in Philadelphia that you are stuck with for the rest of your life. Go Birds. I'm just saying.
we
So
are we are a
um,
tribe.
you're
We are a
welcome to my
tribe.
information. If
Yes.
you want it, you're in the tribe now. So
Well, thank you. I'm happy to be part of the tribe for sure.
Yeah.
But I will be reaching out more. I know I came on late.
absolutely.
I apologize about that, but I do want to get a little bit more perspective on what is a realistic expectation versus probably
Yeah.
what I have in my mind now.
You know.
Yes. Well, the great thing is you
Okay.
can go back and watch the beginning. The doctors had a lot of great information that they
Yes, they did.
shared. I had them on in the beginning. So definitely go back and watch from the beginning. You're going to get a lot of great information. And Moni, you know, I'm here for you. We didn't get a chance to get together this weekend, but
But we
I
will.
I'm here. And I feel like not once did I remind everyone that you can donate, but it was up there on the screen. So hopefully everyone knew to please
Yeah.
donate.
Yeah, but listen. I don't during my streams. I don't ask for bits or subs. They're never requested, required, or expected, but truly appreciated.
Yes.
But tonight, right now, in the next 2 minutes, however long it takes. If we run late, we run late. It is what it is. But Tawana put together a great panel of doctors and survivors, and and a DJ. So please donate. Give.ccf.org/Tawana's Twitch. Let's move her bar up because once again, she put together a great panel. And I think, if you're going to donate, let her get some credit on this because this is really a tremendous stream. So thank you, Tawana, for doing this and show your appreciation by please donating. Because again, donations are 100% tax deductible. And it's a win-win. You get to write off on your taxes and you get to help a great cause. So please support. This is phenomenal, Tawana. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And share. I mean, Breast Cancer
Yes.
Awareness Month is not over. So if you don't get a chance to donate now, then just go back and donate later.
Donate
And
tomorrow. Donate wins, whatever. Yeah,
there
absolutely.
you go.
Kwame, you got a hype train.
It's gonna. Hype
Hey,
train.
we're gonna let it run. We're gonna let it run.
Let's go, y'all. Let's get these bits and subs.
Yes.
With
And by the way,
breakfast.
big up
Baptized.
big up to DJ Prodigy. He did come with a raid earlier, and we're in the middle of a deep conversation.
He
But salute to DJ
did.
Prodigy with the raid. So
Thank you, DJ Prodigy, and Dr. Dady Priest. And I feel like there was
yes,
someone else that came in with a raid. Thank you so much. If you're a fan of mine, you know that I am just always so into the interview. And I had my super duper mod on the show. So I was trying to do my own moderating, which never works well. But I sure do appreciate everyone dropping by and supporting us today and this wonderful event, Beats for a Cure. And again,
yeah.
DJ D Man, as we get ready to get out of here, just let everyone know where this means in your heart, where this stands in your heart.
Listen, this is like when I kicked off this whole thing today at 9 a.m. and I think by like 9:03, I already had tears in my eyes. Like it was just I was just so full of emotion this morning. Because normally my daughter, she goes, I get her up ready for school. I get her on the bus, and that's like at 6:30 in the morning. And I go right back to bed for like another hour or 2 hours, and I get back up and I like stream or work, whatever, depends what day it is. And I was just so excited, like I could not lay back down. And I was just like just amped up for today, and just knowing that all the streamers, DJs, musicians, everyone involved were willing to donate their 2-hour time shift to do this. And then seeing, like right now, this hype train going on, Dr. Dady Priest dropping 5-piece right there. Or six, was that 10-piece? A 5-piece? Yeah. So I mean, stuff like that. It makes me feel so good. And just hearing the stories from Donna and Monica, what you guys are going through, and and I realized that when I put this together, I did this for my mom and memory of my mom. But then I'm seeing like, wow, this event really is affecting and supporting other individuals, and I'm like, wow, this is a big deal, and so it just makes me feel really good, and I plan on crying another like 500 times before the end of this thing, and I cried 4 times this morning on stream, and I'm gonna cry another, like I said, 496 more for the rest of the week because it just fills me with so much joy that we're making a difference here, and it's just a beautiful thing, and all these beautiful women and men. Once again, don't forget men.
Yes.
Get yourself checked as well. I meant to ask the doctor to see if he had done any reconstruction on men or not.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, when I was in the hospital, he did do
He did? Okay.
reconstruction on one man. He does.
Okay.
Yeah, so he does. Oh my goodness.
So yeah.
DJ Vader. Oh my
Vader, what's good,
goodness.
fam?
Thank
Tiny
you
island of
so much.
Cincinnati.
Come on here.
And we're not even going to go too deeply into the fact that Cincinnati and Cleveland are playing each other this week.
Listen, why are you trying to put up a divide between the two brothers here? No, we're not doing that. We're not doing that.
Yes, for this 5 piece. Thank you, DJ Beta Mix.
Yes, thank you so much for all of the biddies. Sweet Jamaica girl.
Thank you, Dr. Davy Priest.
Thank you, Dr. Dady Priest. Thank you,
Yes.
Lawanda. Just thank you. Only
Thank
one
you,
Mrs.
everybody.
Cox. Twitch's radio, Relly Rel, who is like really my brother like him and Kelly. We figured out somebody
Yes.
out there made sure that we were family. So thank you,
That's it.
thank you.
Tootsie Roll
All
Pop.
right. Listen, let's get on to the next DJ. I know they're waiting on us again. Thank y'all for being here. Donate. I'm going to be back here Saturday during my regular time as well. So, can always listen in any Saturday.
Where
Quick
we
question.
at?
Thank you.
This hype
Is
train,
is the hype train still going?
Is it still
Thank
going?
you,
I thought it
Ms.
was over. Lord,
I can't see it. Is it still going?
Keep it going. All right.
It's still going. We're at level 5.
Oh, we're letting it run. We're letting it run. We're letting it run.
I thought it was over.
DJ J Jonah can he'll be all right. He'll be okay. He'll be all right. So this I would say Sweet Jamaica, let him know, but you're on the channel right now. So.
I know. Monica,
Hold on, I got it.
how are you doing?
Thank you.
That's really good.
All right.
Yeah, overall, I've just been buried in work, partially on purpose, so that I don't have to think about it. But it'll hit me upside the head like the day before.
Monica, do you have a sufficient support system?
Yes, I would say so. I just sometimes feel like they don't really understand always,
And they won't.
Right. So it's good probably to, build relationships with people who've already gone down this path.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I owe you some food delivery for sure.
You don't want to like come and clean my what are those things? My gray bags.
Your drain.
Yeah.
Yes. And the cleaning those drains, definitely the most disgusting thing that I've had to do in a really, really long time.
Mm-hmm.
Donna, did you have to do your own or did your husband do yours for you?
Do what?
Did you have drains?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question.
Did you have those drains?
I did. I had
how many?
I had 8 of them.
Whoa! 8. I thought I had a lot with 4. Wow.
I had 8.
Monica, I don't know if you can see the chat, but several people have said, come on over here and get some of this Twitch support. Kelly Vision and her Monica, your Twitch family got you. Yeah, we do. Come on and join Twitch. Join this family. So
I'm gonna have to sign up. I need to know who the family is. I better.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to sign up too because they look like y'all having way too much fun over there. I'm gonna have to sign up.
Come on! I've been telling you. I've been sending you these clips. Come on.
Yeah, Twitch is where it's at. I didn't realize you guys were part of Twitch already, so I didn't realize you guys were not on Twitch. So yeah, please, get on.
As a matter of fact, OMU 2023 is about to jump off.
Listen, okay, so let's put a shameless plug in here real quick. So we have the OMU. Go to ohiomeetup.com. We have tickets for the OMU. It's the last weekend of July. We just had one this past July. Phenomenal event. This year it's going to be even bigger and better. So. And that's how I got the chance to meet Tawana and Sweet Jamaica in person. It's like I said, that was my first time meeting a lot of people on Twitch, and it was just like, I already knew them, because the community is so tight here on Twitch. So yeah, please, Monica, Donna, join. It's fun. I DJ, I play music, and then we got talk shows, so we got a lot of different things. So
yes,
the streamers
yes,
are
Kelly
amazing.
Vision 8. Can you imagine? I know that you were you were one of the main people that went and helped your sister-in-law out with her drains, but could you imagine 8? I thought 4 was a lot. I just can't even imagine having 8 of them. Monica, Moni, that's going to be. And so just full disclosure, because I don't know that I introduced you as my cousin.
Yes.
She is my cousin. So she's family, and then she will be Twitch family too.
Yes.
All right.
I appreciate all the love from the Twitch family. I'm excited to get logged on now. And Twan, if I have technical difficulties, I'm just bringing my computer over and you can help me.
No worries. I got you, girl. I got you. Oh my gosh. Are we?
It's done.
We're
Yeah, it's
done.
done.
Get
That's
to
done.
level 4.
Thank you.
Something.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you guys
Thank
so
you
much.
to everyone who gifted
I mean,
subs.
better sell those tickets.
Yeah. She cracks a whip on me every once in a while. Like, you better
Y'all
get
know
on
what
that.
I'm telling you. The first meetup was amazing. And it was the first meetup I had ever gone to. Didn't know that there was anything like it in the Twitch world. But I tell you what, there's nothing like it's nothing like the family that we have
Yes.
there.
Absolutely.
All right. So I'm going to audio.
No. You're going to DJ J Jonah. Actually, I'll put in the chat real quick.
DJ.
We had to flip it.
DJ J. I feel like I saw that name.
Yeah, he was in the chat.
Yeah.
I just put his name. I was going to make sure I spelled it right because he has 3 J's in there.
Yep.
Where's he at?
All right.
So,
I think that I
there he is.
found DJ. Yes, there he is.
Yep.
He's sitting there waiting for us to get there, I'm sure. All right, you guys. Again, thank you so much for you guys coming out, participating, having a very sometimes awkward conversation about breast cancer, but I hope everyone was able to learn something new today.
Yes, hashtag titty rub.
Titty rub. Thank you, sweet Jamaica. I think I have to just move a little closer to you in order to.
Yeah, because
really
I'm the time zone queen, but I'm not sure if I'm going to travel time zones to rub on titties. I'm just saying.
We'll talk about that offline.
Time zones. Sucker.
All right, we're going to go on over to DJ Jonah.
Hi, everyone.
All right. Thank you, Tawana. Thank you so much.
Put the raid message in there.
Thank you for the invite, Tawana.
Thank you for coming, girl.
Nice to meet
you. I
you,
realized I didn't put the raid. Hold on. I didn't put my raid sign in there.
John, I'm finna call you, girl.
Now it's in there. Copy that raid message, y'all, and go on over to DJ Jonah. DJ Jonah. Jonah. All right. Bye.
Bye.
Oh, Lord.
Bye.
Oh, have mercy. All right.
Exit
Are we?
I got to exit.